They say aging brings wisdom, and yes, it often does. But along with the wisdom can come quieter days, fewer visits, longer nights, a slowing down of pace, a shifting of roles, and sometimes an overwhelming silence that nobody talks about. Imagine this: Margaret, 78, used to love tending her garden. These days, the plants are overgrown. Robert, 81, once the life of every church gathering, now rarely leaves the house. They're not just tired. They're not just getting older. They're showing signs of something deeper, something dangerous, something far too often ignored. You see, there's a harmful myth that has crept into our culture. It whispers, feeling down is just part of getting old. It suggests that after a certain age, it's normal to feel empty, lonely, or hopeless. But that is simply not true. Depression in older adults is real. It's not just sadness. It's not just fatigue. It's a medical condition, one that affects the brain, the body, and the soul. And yet, according to the CDC and the National Institute of Mental Health, depression often goes undiagnosed in older adults, even in those who regularly see doctors. Why? Because the signs are subtle. Because many seniors won't say, "I'm depressed." They'll say things like, "I'm just tired," or "I don't want to be a burden," or worse, they'll say nothing at all. In this video, we'll walk with you through the hidden world of late-life depression. You'll learn how to tell the difference between normal grief and clinical depression. You'll hear the unspoken warning signs, the ones that appear in behavior, in habits, even in body language. We'll explore how chronic pain and loneliness can trigger emotional collapse. And we'll show you how family, caregivers, and professionals can make a life-saving difference, often with just a simple shift in how we listen and respond. You might be thinking, "But my father never complains," or "My grandmother just likes to be alone," or even, "She's not depressed, she's just old." Please watch this video before you accept that answer. Because when untreated, depression in older adults can lead to unnecessary suffering, medical complications, and even suicide. But with awareness, compassion, and proper care, there is hope. And that hope might begin with you. Stay with us. What you learn today could help someone rediscover joy, or even find a reason to live again. Let's begin with the myth, one of the most dangerous misconceptions surrounding mental health in older adults. There is a quiet belief that once you reach a certain age, it's just expected that you'll feel sad more often, that you'll stop caring about things you once loved, that it's natural to feel hopeless, lonely, or numb. But here's the truth: depression is not a normal part of aging. Not at 60, not at 80, not ever. According to the CDC, while older adults may face increased risk factors like illness, grief, or isolation, the majority do not experience clinical depression. And when they do, it's a medical condition, not a natural consequence of age. Let's be clear about what depression is and what it isn't. It's not the occasional sadness that comes from a bad day or missing a loved one. It's not the quiet reflection that can accompany retirement or empty nest syndrome. And it's certainly not a sign of weakness or failure. Depression is a disorder of the brain. It affects mood, energy, motivation, and even how the body functions. It can lead to disrupted sleep, changes in appetite, lack of concentration, feelings of worthlessness, and in some cases, thoughts of death or suicide. But here's the real tragedy: Because of this myth that older people are supposed to feel down, many doctors overlook the signs. Many families dismiss the symptoms. And many older adults themselves internalize the belief, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just old. Let's take Robert, for example. He's 81. He lost his wife 5 years ago. He rarely leaves the house now. He says he's just tired. But behind those words is a man who hasn't smiled in weeks, has lost interest in reading and church, and no longer returns calls from friends. That's not just grief. That's not just aging. That's depression. Or Margaret, 76 years old, mother of 4. Her children live hours away, and she doesn't want to bother anyone. She says she's fine, but her home is increasingly messy. Meals are skipped, and she sleeps through most of the day. She doesn't feel sad. She says just empty. That, too, is depression. And it looks different in older adults than it does in younger people. While younger adults may openly express sadness or talk about their emotions, many seniors grew up in times where mental health wasn't discussed. They may not use words like depression or anxiety. Instead, they talk about feeling off, tired, achy, or slowing down. As a result, depression is often masked by physical symptoms, fatigue, digestive issues, chronic pain, restlessness. This leads to misdiagnosis, sometimes treated as purely physical illness, when the root is emotional. The World Health Organization reminds us that untreated depression in older adults not only reduces quality of life, it also increases the risk of disability, worsens chronic conditions, and significantly raises the risk of suicide, especially in men over 75. Let that sink in. Men over 75 have the highest suicide rates of any age group in many developed countries. And yet, depression is treatable. With the right support, therapy, medication, and community engagement, older adults can and do recover. But first, we must unlearn the lie. We must stop normalizing depression as just part of aging and start recognizing it as a serious, addressable health condition. If depression in older adults doesn't always look like sadness, then what does it look like? That's where it gets complicated and urgent. Because unlike what many expect, depression in seniors often wears a different mask. It doesn't always involve crying or verbal expressions of hopelessness. More often, it shows up in silence, withdrawal, and subtle changes that may take weeks or months to notice. Let's walk through some of the most common and most overlooked warning signs. 1. Withdrawal from activities or One of the earliest signs is pulling away from routines that once brought joy. Robert used to attend his weekly chess group without fail. Now, he makes excuses to stay home. Margaret hasn't answered her book club messages in weeks. She says she's just tired. These aren't just changes in interest, they're red flags. 2. Loss of interest in personal care, neglected grooming, wearing the same clothes day after day, or letting the home fall into disarray can all signal depression. For older adults who used to take pride in cleanliness or style, this shift speaks volumes. 3. Changes in appetite or weight loss without trying, skipping meals, or in some cases, overeating out of emotional numbness. Depression affects appetite and digestion in complex ways, often misread as a separate health issue. 4. Sleep disturbances, season, frequent waking, or sleeping most of the day. When Margaret started sleeping 14 hours a day, her children thought she was simply exhausted. but sleep changes like that are rarely benign. 5. Persistent fatigue and low energethis. One can be tricky because aging naturally involves reduced energy. But when a person no longer has the motivation to get out of bed, to cook, or to even turn on the TV, it's more than just getting old. 6. Irritability or restlessness. Depression can show up as anger or agitation. Seniors may lash out, complain more than usual, or become easily frustrated. These changes are often misinterpreted as grumpiness or just how they are. 7. Physical complaints without clear cause. Depression can manifest physically through headaches, body aches, digestive issues, or chronic pain. When medical tests come back normal but discomfort persists, the cause might not be in the body, but in the mind. 8. Expressing feelings of worthlessness or guilt. Statements like, "I'm just a burden. Everyone would be better off without me." These are not passing thoughts. They are cries for help, and they must be taken seriously. The National Council on Aging emphasizes that these signs often build slowly and are frequently dismissed by both families and healthcare providers as normal aging or even attention-seeking. But they are not normal. They are the body and mind's way of signaling that something is deeply wrong. Here's the challenge. Many older adults are incredibly skilled at hiding their emotional pain. They don't want to be a burden. They don't want to be pitied. They may have been raised in a time when mental health was a taboo subject. So they smile. They say, "I'm fine." They change the subject. And meanwhile, the depression deepens silently. This is why observation matters. Caregivers, family members, and professionals need to look beyond words and watch behavior. Has someone stopped attending church? Do they no longer care about their appearance? Are they sleeping at odd hours or losing weight unexpectedly? These are not just quirks. These are signals. In the next sections, we'll explore why these symptoms develop and how loneliness, chronic pain, and trauma contribute to the spiral. But for now, take a moment to reflect. Is there someone in your life who may be suffering in silence? Someone whose world has grown smaller, quieter, darker? They may not say it out loud, but they need help, and it could start with your awareness. We humans are social beings. Our brains are wired for connection. From infancy to old age, we thrive on relationships, shared moments, meaningful conversations. But for millions of older adults, connection fades. Not all at once, but gradually. A friend passes away. A spouse dies. Adult children move to different cities. Physical limitations make outings harder. Hearing loss makes conversations frustrating. And suddenly, a vibrant life becomes quiet. Loneliness is not just an emotion, it's a health risk. According to the National Institute on Aging, chronic loneliness can be as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, cognitive decline, and yes, depression. Let's pause on that. Being alone doesn't just make you sad. It can literally break your body and mind. Social isolation is slightly different. It refers to having few social contacts or relationships. And while some people may choose solitude, isolation is often unintentional and dangerous. Older adults are especially vulnerable. In the US alone, nearly 1 in 4 adults over 65 is considered socially isolated. In the UK, that number climbs during winter months. And in rural Australia or parts of Canada, distance itself becomes a barrier. Margaret, for instance, used to have neighbors she saw daily, but after a few moved or passed away, and her mobility declined, her world shrunk to the walls of her small apartment. Her only regular visitor is the mail carrier. Robert, since his wife's passing, hasn't had anyone sit with him for a meal in over 2 months. He says, "I'm used to it, but no one should have to get used to being invisible." Loneliness distorts the way we see ourselves. It feeds negative thoughts. I don't matter. No one cares. I'm forgotten. These thoughts, when unchallenged, evolve into depression. And here's what makes it even more complex. Depression makes people withdraw even further. They cancel plans, stop answering calls, avoid public spaces. So the cycle deepens. Loneliness leads to depression, which leads to more isolation. This is why simply saying, "you should get out more," doesn't work. It's not about laziness. It's about the emotional weight that makes even small interactions feel overwhelming. The World Health Organization stresses that addressing loneliness is a public health priority. Solutions are not just individual, they must be systemic. Programs that connect seniors through community centers, volunteer work, or group therapy have proven effective. Technology, too, can help, but only when it's accessible and taught with patience. A video call once a week, a neighborhood walk with a friend. These things matter more than we realize. Sometimes the most powerful intervention isn't a pill, it's presence. A visit, a call, a meal shared, a reminder you are seen, you are valued. So if you have an aging parent, neighbor, or friend who seems distant, don't wait for them to reach out. You be the one to initiate. It could be the thread that brings them back from silence. Because loneliness doesn't just echo in empty rooms. It echoes in the heart, and the consequences are far more than emotional. Let's talk about pain. Not emotional pain, not yet, but physical pain. The kind that lingers in joints. That makes mornings hard and nights restless. The kind of pain that doesn't go away, even after medication or therapy. Chronic pain. For millions of older adults, it's a daily reality. Arthritis, neuropathy, fibromyalgia, back problems, post-surgical pain, the list is long. But here's something that's often overlooked. Chronic pain and depression are deeply linked. They feed into each other, creating a cycle that's hard to break. Imagine waking up every morning with aching knees. Every movement feels like work. You used to love walking in the park, but now even getting dressed is exhausting. You cancel plans. You stay in. You start to feel useless. And slowly, the light dims. According to the NIH, up to 50% of older adults with chronic pain also suffer from depression. And the reverse is true. Two people with depression often report more severe and persistent pain, even when doctors can't find a clear cause. Why does this happen? Because pain isn't just physical, it's processed in the brain. And depression affects the brain's chemical balance, including serotonin and norepinephrine, both of which play roles in how we perceive pain. So when the brain is struggling emotionally, the body feels it too. Let's go back to Robert. His arthritis has gotten worse over the years. He used to take daily walks, but now he rarely leaves his recliner. He says it's because of the pain, but that's only part of the story. His lack of movement is also a result of depression. And the less he moves, the worse the pain gets. It's a vicious loop. Margaret, on the other hand, suffers from chronic lower back pain. She used to love gardening. Now, she watches weeds grow from her kitchen window. The loss of that joy, that sense of purpose, is more painful than the physical ache, and that grief has evolved into emotional numbness. What makes this connection even harder to treat is that many older adults will only mention the pain. They'll go to the doctor with a limp or sore muscles, but they won't mention the sadness, the isolation, or the fear of being a burden. So they receive treatment for the symptom, but not the cause. To make matters worse, chronic pain can disrupt sleep, and poor sleep worsens both pain and depression. Another loop, another trap. The World Health Organization encourages healthcare providers to screen for both conditions, pain and depression, especially in older adults, because treating one without the other often leads to poor outcomes. And for caregivers, understanding this connection is vital. That grumpy tone or refusal to walk might not be stubbornness. It might be suffering, but there is hope. Multidisciplinary care, that is, a combination of physical therapy, psychological support, proper medication, and community, can dramatically improve both pain and mood. So can gentle movement, like Tai Chi or aquatic therapy. Even small, consistent improvements in physical activity can restore a sense of autonomy and reduce emotional distress. The key is recognizing that pain is never just physical, and that healing the mind can help heal the body and vice versa. So far, we've explored how depression hides in pain, in silence, in loneliness. But now, let's talk about those who are in the best position to spot the signs and change the outcome: family, caregivers, friends, health professionals. Depression in older adults is often invisible until someone is paying attention, not just to what is said, but to what is no longer said, not just to how someone looks, but to how they move or don't. Many older adults won't say, "I'm depressed." They might not even think of themselves that way. They might say, "I'm just tired. I don't want to bother anyone. I'm not hungry these days." Or worse, "What's the point?" This is where observation, empathy, and open communication become powerful tools. Start by looking at changes in behavior. Are they withdrawing from family gatherings? Is their home unusually messy? Do they skip meals or avoid calls? Have their routines changed? Even subtle shifts can be meaningful. And when it's time to talk, how you approach matters just as much as what you say. Avoid judgmental language. Don't say, "You're being dramatic," or "Other people have it worse." Instead, try, "I've noticed you've seemed quieter lately. Is everything okay?" Or, "You don't seem like yourself. I care, and I want to help." Sometimes, one compassionate question is enough to open a door that's been locked for years. Let's return to Margaret. Her daughter, Lisa, noticed something was off. The phone calls had gotten shorter. The laughter was gone. Instead of brushing it off, Lisa made a quiet visit. She sat with Margaret, made tea, and simply asked, "Mom, are you feeling lonely?" That simple act, without pressure, without judgment, led to a real conversation. Margaret cried for the first time in months, and for the first time in years, she agreed to see a counselor. These are the moments that change lives. But there are obstacles. Some older adults carry deep stigma around mental health. They might say, "We didn't talk about these things in my day." Or they may fear being seen as weak, unstable, or even being institutionalized. This is where trust plays a crucial role. If you're a caregiver, consistency and kindness are your strongest tools. You may not have the power to diagnose or treat, but you have the power to listen, to notice, and to gently guide. You can say, I know it's not easy to talk about these things, but you don't have to go through it alone. Or, talking to someone doesn't mean something's wrong with you, it means you're strong enough to want to feel better. And if you're a health professional, especially in primary care, screen for depression regularly. Ask open-ended questions. Don't assume the patient will bring it up, especially not with older generations. Sometimes all it takes is one person to say, I see you, I care, let's talk, because the silence of depression is loud. And for older adults, it often takes someone else's courage to break it. After all the silence, the pain, the withdrawal, is there hope? The answer is absolutely. Depression in older adults is not just treatable, it's often highly treatable, but only when it's recognized, addressed, and met with compassion. Let's be honest. No one can go back in time and undo loss, illness, or aging. But healing doesn't mean forgetting pain, it means reclaiming life, even after it's changed. Treatment starts with acknowledgement, whether it's the older adult themselves, a family member, or a healthcare provider. Someone needs to say, this is more than sadness. This deserves care. There are several effective paths forward. 1. Psychotherapy is called talk therapy. This is one of the most effective treatments for late-life depression. Cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), in particular, helps older adults identify negative thought patterns and reshape them. Therapy offers a safe space to process grief, trauma, and fear without judgment. 2. Medication antizant can help regulate brain chemistry, especially for moderate to severe depression. It's important to find the right medication and dosage, as older adults may react differently than younger populations. Regular follow-up with a physician or psychiatrist is essential. 3. Physical activity. Even gentle movement like walking, stretching, or chair yoga can lift mood and reduce anxiety. Exercise releases endorphins and supports better sleep, appetite, and energy. 4. Social connection. Joining a senior group, attending religious services, volunteering, or participating in community classes can rebuild purpose. Even weekly phone calls or online meetings with friends or relatives can make a world of difference. 5. Addressing physical health. Managing chronic pain, hearing loss, or mobility issues can indirectly improve mental health. When the body feels supported, the mind can begin to heal too. 6. Meaningful routiness. Helping older adults structure their day with small goals like reading, gardening, or cooking restores a sense of agency. It tells the brain, you are still in control. Take Robert, for example. After months of isolation, he joined a local senior men's walking group. At first, he said very little, but week after week, he returned. Now, he's one of the regulars, and he recently started helping new members feel welcome. And Margaret? She began therapy through a virtual mental health service tailored for seniors. She now meets weekly with a counselor and has reconnected with her sister after years of distance. She says, I didn't realize how much I had shut myself away until I started to feel the door opening again. There's no quick fix, but there is progress. There is support. There is healing. And just as importantly, there is life after depression. If you are watching this as an older adult, please hear this. Your life still holds value. You are not a burden. There is still joy ahead, sometimes in the smallest of moments. And if you're a caregiver, loved one, or friend. Your presence, encouragement, and patience can be the bridge someone needs to begin again. Because while depression may whisper, "You're alone," connection says, "You matter." And that message can change everything. If you've made it this far, you already know depression in older adults is not a weakness. It's not a character flaw, and it is most certainly not a normal part of aging. It's a health condition, one that steals joy, connection, energy, and too often lives, but also one that can be treated, reversed, and healed. It begins with awareness, then with courage, and most of all, with compassion. You don't need to be a doctor or a therapist to make a difference. You just need to show up, to ask, to listen, to believe someone when they say they're struggling, even if they don't have the words for it. Because healing doesn't always begin in a clinic. Sometimes it begins in a quiet kitchen, over a cup of tea, in a text message, in a walk around the block, in a single sentence, "You matter to me." If you're an older adult watching this, please reach out to a friend, to a doctor, to someone who sees you. There is help. There is support. There is still time to feel joy again. If you're a family member or caregiver, keep looking closely. Depression doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. And your love, your presence, your patience, they could be life-changing. As we close this video, remember, the later chapters of life are not meant to be written in silence or sorrow. They can be filled with laughter, connection, meaning, and peace. Because aging is not the end of the story. It's just a new chapter. Let's write it together with hope, with care, and with the understanding that no one, absolutely no one, should have to face depression alone.